Hey there, Stanford fans. Welcome back to Game 1 of the Bootleg post-game report here at Stanford Stadium. The first game of the season is in the books. Stanford is a 26-13 winner. I'm Abeytia for the Bootleg along with Jim Rutter. And Jim, words that you would use to describe the game, I'm going to start with uneven and then see what you have to say.
Well, my initial reaction, RJ, is that we have to be realistic in tempering our expectations. We cannot just expect perfect performances when we've got a new quarterback to work in, some new offensive linemen. We're playing the first game of the season. It wasn't overwhelming. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't easy. I mean, K-State didn't roll over. They might have rolled over if that punt return goes without being called back. But it's really easy for us after all these years of success to get a little bit spoiled. We saw, a performance that we would have been very satisfied with 10 years ago, and given the last few years, maybe that was not the kind of eye candy that fans are used to seeing. But Christian gave us a few highlight moments, which everybody expects. It's not often you see a guy run for 126 yards and consider that bottled up. If someone else rushes for two 35-yard plus touchdowns in a game, you think he's a world beater, and that would be considered a marvelous performance. With Christian, it's just another day at the office, and we could have seen a lot more. Conservative playbook, showing nothing, getting ready for USC in a couple weeks.
Well, yeah, and I think we do get spoiled a little bit when we talk about how successful they've been, but I think you only need to go back to last season's attempt to beat Purple Wildcats in Game 1, which was not nearly as successful as this one, spoiled or not spoiled. And that brings us to something that was most drastically different today. Stanford started a first-time quarterback. Of course, that wasn't the case last year at Northwestern when they had Kevin Hogan going in his final seasons. Ryan Burns, 14 of 18, 156 yards, didn't set the stadium on fire, but didn't set the stadium on fire.
He also didn't throw any incompletions for a while, right? So we had a nice string of completions, I think, between Chris and Burns. Kellen threw one pass in there. We had about 11 straight completions to start the season. Normally, you get pretty excited about that, right? There was a little bit of a fade in the passing game in the second half. We certainly weren't hitting our third downs quite the way we were. I thought our tight end, Taboda, looked great, picking up a couple third downs on beautiful plays. And Burns going deep. I mean, we have a deep ball. I think Kevin Hogan realistically would have carved up Kansas State considerably more given his experience, but we saw that if they are going to crowd and we give time to Ryan Burns, he can make that play, and that did, you would think we would have done that a few more times, but far be it from us to second guess the coaching staff.
Well, at least not after week one, not after a week one win anyway. But Coach Shaw did talk about in his post-game presser the fact that Stanford did leave some plays out there on the field, and they were not nearly as sharp in the first half. Johnny Kaspers echoed the same sentiment about the offensive line, so I don't think we're too far off with saying it could have been a little better, but it was pretty solid. But I think we need to switch over at this point to the Stanford defense, which showed a lot of potential on a night when they came in as certainly the less celebrated between offense and defense.
And just seeing Harrison Phillips back out there, it looked like he almost got banged up again, gave us all a scare. Having another scare with Quentin Meeks, my heart stopped after he also was, what a playmaker. Came up with a huge interception, drive killing kind of stuff we expect from 24 now.
Things we're also taken for granted now, right?
Whoo. The defense came up timely. I know. Who'd they give the safety to? Watkins, maybe?
Jordan Watkins, another big story in this game.
But if you go back to the film, I think you're going to see Mike Tyler pushing his man back right into the quarterback. I mean, I remember seeing 33 being a big part of that play. But that's team defense making a play. That was a huge confidence builder. But then we had a few things. The free kick after the safety was a morale killer. I mean, I thought you couldn't have come up with more of a morale killer than the callback of McCaffrey's punt return. But boy, that free kick was just, guys, we know better. Be ready.
Yeah, and to be honest, again, Coach Shaw reacted more or less the same way. In fact, in his post-game press conference, he didn't even talk when asked about that onside for the first 10 seconds. It was literally 10 seconds of David Shaw pounding his head on the microphone. No joke. That's exactly what we got from Coach when asked about that onside. To be clear and set the record straight, per Coach, they knew it was coming. It was literally a failure to execute. He said virtually the entire sideline was screaming onside coming. Execution not there, but again, on a night when things are not perfect, a lot better than they were opening week last week, and now 2 weeks to get ready for the game that seems to define Stanford's season, especially if you look back at the last 2 seasons, USC.
Yeah, I don't love playing SC early just because I don't like where that falls in the season, but it's nice because when you beat them, it gives you a nice momentum boost. And you make the point. Last year at this time, we were really second guessing, as we were told by Ronnie Harris at one of the Maples Pavilion games. Ronnie called out the fans, I think, for maybe jumping on them too early last year, and that's true. I mean, I think people got a little down that game. That was a tough game back in Evanston. Certainly Northwestern came to play. These Wildcats, as you said, same. I wonder if ever a college football team has opened the season against a team with the exact same, not only nickname, but mascot. It's Willie the Wildcat. I thought it was deja vu all over again.
I've had enough of them at this point. To be honest with you, I don't think we need more purple Wildcats. But to put a bow on this one, I think a lot of good signs for Stanford fans, a lot of good signs for the future. We had Michael Rector getting deep on play action, as you were talking about before. Stanford certainly has a quarterback who does have some pocket presence. He's got some arm. He made some big boy throws today out on the sideline, made some conversions, the laser to Tabata up the seam that you talked about. And again, the defensive line depth, things that they haven't had in a long time. So it's 1-0, something to look forward to. 2 weeks till USC. Closing thoughts.
That defensive line you're talking about, I don't know yet how good Kansas State is. We don't really know. If they can end up playing well in the Big 12, then you'll have to look at this game a little differently, right? But seeing Solomon Thomas and Phillips and Jordan Watkins in there contributing, and Dylan Jackson and even Luke was getting pressure on. I mean, that's a big body coming at you. So if Luke can keep that up, that's beautiful pressure coming from the defense. But we look like men out there. I mean, look at Joey Alfieri is pushing people around.
Oh, you're not talking about us?
No.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
No, it was interesting to see Branch and Okereke playing together. I don't know what adjustments they were making there, other than to get them some time. I mean, it certainly seemed interesting strategically. I'm not sure I understood it, but it was good to see him in there, and a lot of rotations in the defensive backs. I think Ben Edwards would like to get one play back, but otherwise looked pretty good. And you lose one in the corner here. That was a nice throw.
It was a great throw. It was a great throw.
In the pros, he doesn't get the second foot down. So that, kudos to them for making a nice play. But there really aren't too many things to complain about. There seemed to be a lot of flags. Maybe it was just
there's always too many flags.
It seemed like there were an awful lot of them, and it took a lot of time to sort some of them out. So I felt the game had kind of a painstaking pace to it at times. It wasn't the most thrilling college football game ever, but if you look at what we needed to get done is not have major injuries. I mean, these are the cliches. No major injuries. Don't show them anything in the playbook. We got to get a little bit of a sense. I'm not sure we've gotten a sense that we solved our quarterback question. That'll remain to be seen. But we're all rooting for Ryan Burns or Kellen Christopher, or it could even be 11 could come in. So we're not supposed to mention Costello by name because that would put too much pressure on.
Yeah, let's not make this any more complicated than it has to be.
Whoever needs to be. We're not calling for anything like that. We're just saying that this team is a bunch of veteran guys. They're much less worried about this than we are. They're going to get it done. They're getting ready for SC. They're scared of no one. The 26-13 certainly looks a lot better than it would have looked at 19. So thank you, Christian, for that bust out. And my father called that, by the way. He said the only way we're going home happy is if Christian returns us now, if he pulls off a touchdown, and he did on the next play. So everybody does go home happy. Maybe not satisfied, but happy's good.
Yeah, and it's overall, it's happy. It's a 1-0 win for Stanford. 26-13, they beat the Kansas State Wildcats here at Stanford Stadium. Next game, 2 weeks against the USC Trojans as they come calling, and we'll talk to you then. So long, Stanford fans.